everybody, welcome back to the Bill and Rae Show. I'm out in the torch shop making another marble. I've got a couple little projects to start with before we can really dive into the meat of it. So I'm going to do some mixing up of sparkles and then a little fumed cane piece. So let's dig into it. I've got more ideas of things to do than I've got time today to do. So I just have to get after what I can. Got just kind of an outline of steps that I want to do today. Not too sure what the final result's going to be, but we're going to just try and ease into it today, relax, get in the right mindset to just be chill with the glass. It's not easy all the time for me to jump into getting going with these videos, because once I get going, I'm just off and running. I don't edit anything out unless it's necessary. Something that I need to cut out, I can do that, but generally there's very little that gets cut out of these videos. So appreciate you guys for stopping by and checking it out. I'll try and show the entire process. Right now I'm just trying to clean up a little section of glass. It's not going to be very much. So I've got a few different little sparkly stuff. This one is Disco Sparkle. When I first was trying to use this, I was using it like full strength on the back side of a marble, and this is very heavy sparkle, so it if it's on the surface, it's like extremely rough texture, and I was like, wow, that's kind of weird stuff. And then I saw somewhere, it's like, well, you're supposed to thin this out. Or whatever application you want to do. You want to kind of water it down. So I wanted to do that process again. I've used watered down Disco Sparkle in some of my projects, but I don't think I've shown how I do it. And this is just one idea how to mix it down. So this is IO Star, which is kind of a cobalt-based sparkle, and it has kind of a finer sparkle texture. I just thought I'd throw some of that in there. And these little bumps start boiling up. This stuff is kind of messy to work with, but it'll come together. So that kind of sets the proportion. What did I miss? Maybe I missed her. Doesn't really matter, but okay, need a couple little handles. I'm building this up on a 16 millimeter rod. These are some 5 millimeter handles. Roller out here. So this large rod just kind of gives me an idea of where I'm starting with the proportion of clear and sparkle. Okay. quite mean for that to come apart. Trying to thin this out. Now, see if I can do this while it's still hot. Oh, that didn't quite go right. But basically, any way you can to just jumble this up without including a bunch of air, of course. So this process could go on for quite some time. If this really takes, if I spend too much time on this, I might cut some of this out. So kind of a lot of twisting and folding, basically. Any variation of twisting and folding you can come up with. And it's pretty sticky. It's kind of thick. It sparkles make the glass stiff. Again, trying to work this along without getting bubbles. This kind of had a fold, deep fold in it here, so. So mixing colors at the torch is not something I do very often. So this is probably about mixed up enough now. I just need to kind of condense this in and pull this out a little bit. Just a big wad of chewing gum. Okay. Move this out. And this will be one of my starting building blocks for this marble. All right. That's our first little project. Then another piece I want in the background is just some fumed twisty, something kind of basic. So go back to our, go back to this 16 millimeter. So I need to just get a section hot here so it'll accept some fuming. And then we let it cool down out. We've got some heat base built up. We're going to let it settle in. And we'll kind of hang this vertically to do some fume on here. Some silver. Go 180. That silver will have spilled around to the other side. And we'll do gold, which will spill around. So we get some, hopefully kind of some blending. Try and introduce this gold really slow to the flame. I'm having issues of gold bouncing around. Okay, then I kind of roll that. Make sure that little gold nugget stays up here on the surface. Okay, now just going to lay down lines of clear. Just trying to lay down as many lines as I can. Doesn't really have to be anything special or consistent. We'll kind of try and be consistent. And then we're going to twist this piece up. So we're going to kind of superheat this far end. And then as we go along, we'll put a handle on here and we can superheat the rest of it. And by superheating, I mean, you get it to a full flow state, but you want to burn out the fuming that's in between the lines. It's not important that it be absolutely burned out, but it's kind of what I'm after. Use the roller again to cut this off. I got the roller out there, ways out. So we kind of start twisting this and getting this thinned out a little bit. There you can kind of see the banding. That's the difference between the gold and the silver sides. handle got kind of thinned out, so we'll pile this back up. So now we heat this up, and we're going to twist this and pull it down to a smaller gauge. And this will produce a whole ton of cane. I'm only going to use a fraction of this in the background of this marble. We'll run out of arm here in a second. So doing this, I'm twisting a lot with my left hand, and my right hand is slowly turning. Down to the end, and we kind of reduce our heat. Okay. Now I have 3 feet of twisty cane here. You get the edge of the bench here charred with the glass hitting there. I get some nice wood smoke aroma. Kind of like the smoke alarm going off in the kitchen yesterday. Once you know the oven's hot. Okay, that's all our prep work. We've got some other color laid out. So we'll jump into using this first sparkly bit that I did. Inside the first effect in the marble. Before we can use it though, we've got to get this end prepped. So this is a 19mm clear rod. And I need to get a gather built up. This will take a minute. So I hope you guys are doing well out there. Thanks for stopping by and checking out today's glass adventure. I don't have a good image in my mind as to how this is going to look when it's all done. Generally, if I do have a clear image in my head, it doesn't turn out looking like that, but it might have the properties, the sequence of techniques that I want to do. So this video series is all about just kind of hanging out at the porch, trying some different things, a lot of repetition of certain steps like this, but it's all part of the part of the experience of hanging out with the torch. Hopefully coming up with a creative process and a cool end result. So to all you out there watching here, today's video has been sponsored by Epicwater filters. There's a link in the description below that you can go to their website and look at some of their products. They make an excellent line of products for filtering your domestic drinking water. And if you click on that link and buy something, we get a small commission out of the deal, so you can help out the channel while getting a high quality product. The little filter cartridges are recyclable with the company. They make everything in the United States. So we appreciate you guys checking that stuff out. Plus we got a whole bunch of links in there to our Etsy store, link to my marbles on eBay, link to our vacation cottage we've got right next door here on the property. Got a link to our astrophotography blog site. There's a whole lot of stuff in the description. Check it out. If you've got questions, drop them in the comments. I always try and answer people's questions. Or, you know, people often wonder what all of my setup is with the oxygen and so on, but I haven't really delved into that too much. Right now I'm still just running multiple concentrators into a big surge tank. I've got basically all the pieces and parts. Springtime gets crazy busy, but one of my projects will be upgrading my oxygen system to a high volume compressed system. See how that goes. Okay, we get a good gather of glass going here. I need the core to settle down a bit. Maybe I need a sip of coffee. I'm going to spill my coffee all over. I've got my marble mug. Got images of a bunch of marbles from recent history. And those are in the description below. Our site. You can get shirts and hats and all that kind of stuff, coffee mugs. Okay, so we're heating up the very end here and pressing it to make a big flat end. So we kind of do this in stages. And with each press, we kind of try and course correct for the tilt and whatever. You can kind of slide the glass along to try and adjust the centering and So this will be doing a compression feature, and so we'd like to see kind of a cone to a flat end. It should look like that. Finally cut out my vent hood here on this side so I don't run into it anymore. Got other obstacles I can run into, but alright, well, we're going to try and splash just a little bit of silver. Not sure if I got much on there, but I mostly want gold, so switch to gold here. A lot of people think that having a little silver first makes it easier to deposit the gold. Kind of an awkward positioning, trying to get gold to fume on there in an even fashion. Now it's looking like it's built up some gold on there. So then we're going to do our sparkly stuff in spots. Find the right location for this. Got stuff in the way back here. Okay. So we don't want to disturb the fume too much in our flat face. So that first touchdown, it wasn't hot enough. Didn't want to stick. Oop. We just want lots of dots. Doesn't matter too much how they're laid out. Okay, that's a bunch of dots. Now, the fume spilled over the backside here, so we'll start off heating up the backside. Okay, try and get this going, heating it in. Yeah, and so we start our compression. So kind of try and get this face to get all these spots to smooth out. Trying to pluck out some of this glass that got a little nasty. And then we're going to press it. And we're going to kind of keep doing that routine. And most of that excess fume in between the dots is disappearing. So the idea here is just keep heating the rim while keeping that face good and hot. And then periodically go into the plate. That's some pretty good heat, but you want it kind of focused, not getting the whole thing too crazy. So this is going to be kind of a fizzy, sparkly effect. The glass, when I was putting the dots on, it was definitely, kind of boiling up. And a lot of that will settle down, but it's going to leave lots of little teeny tiny bubbles. It's kind of a long process of directing the heat, angling. Until it kind of starts getting 3D. And you can start to see what's happening. It's kind of tiring using the same hand to rotate. And remember, I talked about how this sparkle, disco sparkle in particular, is a real thick glass, so even pinned down like this, it's still acting very stiff and reluctant to move. And once we have it kind of that recessed effect, one, you can do some pressing. But you need to get the heat right into that little belly button. So I know a lot of people, they really fuss about any bubbles in the glass, and a lot of glass that I do, there's some intentional bubbles, there's some bubbles that are just kind of the result of the steps that I'm doing, and some of that could be criticized, but in the end, these vortex marbles, you wind up with this lens on the top that's magnifying everything, so whatever was going on in there is going to be magnified. So it can look more extreme than it really is. So now we've got this kind of coming down to a point to some degree. You can kind of see how that's forming up. So now I can start working on that layer of clear that's kind of between the colored glass and the tip. I'm going to squeeze that together. Something like that. And then we can take this end and grab hold of it and pull off that kind of messy tip. Okay, we're ready for background effects. Alright, another sip of coffee here. Alright, making progress. So, that's that one. This one is the cane that I'm looking for. We'll go from this direction. So we're going to do just kind of a full wrap, because why not? And we want to leave a little gap, this is one of those instances where it's real easy to trap lots of air, so I want to avoid that. Come right down to this end and taper that off to be a, pretty much leave that alone. And see, we've still got tons of this cane left for the next another project. Kind of angling this piece into the flame so it's kind of presenting a flat face to the flame. Okay, then I've got some purple lilac, and I sort of wanted to just add a little touch here. Let's settle down with the flame for a minute. So again, I'm not really trying to do anything exacting or specific, just trying to get a certain other dots on here. Add something else in the backdrop. I will admit, I did look back on another marble I did with some of the same techniques, and I think it was back in November last year. And a couple things I'm going to do sort of the same that I did that time. So this step, throw down a little bit of black frit. Drop into the frit here. Come in here again. See, some zones didn't quite pick up there. Okay, well, that was just kind of a starter to the backing. Just letting the heat do its thing. So we get it pretty close to smooth out, then we can finish it up. I do have an opportunity at this point to do another fume, which I think I will do. All right, let's see. Now we're going to go straight with some black jet. Come around this edge. I'm kind of doing a little twisting, a little bit of oscillation here. Trying to lay down this black. I don't want it super thick. I'm rocking it back and forth to help it melt. Okay. We're going to heat that in. This time we're going to coax it along. All right. Now I've got some thinner glass. I think I'm going to try and fill in this little gap. It goes a little bit off. Oh well. A little gap there. Well, I think that rod was black jet. It's looking a little different in the flame. Sometimes you don't realize you picked up a different color until you get it heated up, and it's like, huh, that looks different. I think this is the right stuff. Okay, I think we got her all sealed in there. Got my marble good and toasty. Okay, that's the black. Done with that. So now, let's throw down, let's throw down some silver fume to this back side. So to the extent that that center effect is a floral kind of some type of flower, all those little bubbles and stuff are kind of like dew, mist on the petals. So to me, it's all part of the artistry. So this process of casing the backside with clear, I do little segments at a time, heat up a little bit, push it into the valley, and then pull back. That little pulling back is kind of key to this operation. So I kind of rock the clear rod back and forth a little bit to try and speed up how fast it heats up. That little piece, little section, do a little patch at a time. Yeah, I really enjoy that compression kind of a process. It's always interesting to see how it blooms, how it turns out. And then, like I say, with these marbles, that front acts as a big magnifying lens, so the actual interior component is pretty small in scale. But in the finished marble, it makes it look pretty impressive. So get up close to this transition here, and I like to keep just below where the color, stay on the backing color and don't cross over into that clear front side. Certain boundaries between color and clear are quite important. Okay. I got the first layer on there. We'll do some configuring. So I'm going to come onto this edge and push it back. So it's just a very thin bit of clear up at that edge. And likewise on the tip, we leave that interior glass exposed, so we don't want to let that clear bury it. So I push this back a little bit just to make sure it's sticking out. You can see it glowing there at the end. Okay, now that I got that kind of delicate part done, so I don't upset things on the base, now it's just a matter of adding glass. trying to fill in the valley here without trapping any air. On this layer, sometimes I do get a bubble, and then you can pick it out if you need to. So clear on clear just flows a lot easier. We need another piece of glass here. Part of this is just adding glass, part of it is adding it in the right place, kind of manipulate the geometry. So even though this takes some time, it's kind of a step in the process that you really want to be trying to observe and pay attention to the geometry and think about how this is going to change in the next phase when it melts together. Strategically adding clear pushes the interior around to some degree. So this is sort of additive sculpting. All right, well, that should be enough. So yeah, if you got got some questions, wondering why I do this, how long have I been doing it, where did I start out, whatever it is. You could add some comments in the video below. And at times I thought, well, I don't know, I'm going to just keep doing these videos on making a marble. It's kind of a limited thing. I'm not showing off a bunch of different products or complicated techniques necessarily. But I think I'm going to keep doing this for a while. As long as you all give me some encouragement here and there. So this is a case, clear-cut case, of a bubble. I think I got it. So this end is kind of oddly shaped. So holding it level, actually pulling it, tipping it backside a little bit until I get that clear to squeeze in around the end. And then you kind of start tipping the other direction just a tad. So all these things are just observation. Just watch the glass, watch your heat, where's the heat going. And sometimes the torch can be a precision tool. It can also be kind of overkill, where just all kinds of things are getting hot that you're not really interested in focusing on. So you can see that it starts constricting that little spot on the end. And you can start seeing more what the geometry looks like inside the clear. The clear that you've just added, it has its own optics, so it's not telling you an accurate image of just seeing through it to see what's in there. You have to get enough clear built up to where the interior becomes more accurately represented. So now I'm just kind of focusing on that tip and letting it kind of come together. And there we go. We're about ready to get going on the back side. And today I'm going to start off with some Aqua mist. I think this glass is too bright. I can take my dark shades up. Yeah, actually getting too warm. We went from cold weather to ridiculously hot weather. I'm back to cold weather in a couple days. March in Montana. But our hens are starting to lay eggs, so that's cool. We don't mess with them with lights. You know, people rig up lights on timers through the wintertime to try and coax them into producing year-round, but I don't quite believe in that. Rae and I, we don't think that's quite right, so we just let them do their natural cycle. And the sprayer broke. Yeah. Okay, we're going to do some dragon's blood. Okay, one more color. Okay, do your favorite Unobtanium. Okay, that's our color. All of our colors done. No more color in this marble. We've still got a ways to go. And we'll keep going here until it's all melted smooth. And I have to build up a little bit on this lens portion. And give some more stability to the next process. It's a little too much out of control, so let this settle down. So it's got to stop drooping in this next, before I can do this next raking step. Okay, so don't wait too long. I'll catch it when it's stable, but still pretty hot. Trying to just kind of take the time that it takes to heat up the next little section of glass on the surface so that I can do this rake. Rake feels like it's going through kind of thick sludge. And that will change depending on what colors you use as to what the viscosity is like. I'm trying to go up far enough to capture some of the swirls on the top side and make them kind of tie together. Okay, we'll just scooch up that end that's sticking out. And I like to kind of cut in this back. Again, just kind of trying to keep a focus on that interior point of the marble. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. Because at this point, that interior where I tried to leave the point sticking out with the clear, now that's covered over with color, and it will tend to just burying more and more glass will build up there if you're not careful. Roof does. Pretty warm. Alright. I'm going to work on the lens now. I need a solid punchy attachment. We start off kind of slow, warm things up here, and get the glass starting to move. I want this step to be melting with very little pushing. Times when it seems like it's just getting a little too warm, just back down to a smaller flame and let things stabilize a bit. Okay. Getting tired of this rolling up here in my arms. Go back here with this cutoff roller. Don't pay much attention to what we were doing here. You gotta stay on one track. Okay, now we are going to work on this edge and start peeling out some glass. So this is trying to get rid of some of the scummy glass that accumulated here that's got some of the fuming. And fuming isn't just gold and silver. The colored glass, when it gets really hot, it's pushing off sometimes some metallic fuming as well. So just trying to make a clean transition from the color to clear. And glass blowing all over the place. And then we're just going to keep skimming and use a little bit more propane. Clear glass is not very picky about flame chemistry once it's hot. And any little glowing spots, that was a little spot I think they introduced probably in the tweezers. If the tweezers get in the flame, they'll scatter a bunch of metal bits. Okay, let's see what happens when this melts back a little bit. So far looking pretty clean. And we can use really slow rotations to let that heat soak in. Once your punty gets warm and starts flopping around, you got to keep running at whatever speed you need to keep on center, but some slow rotations will build up a lot of intense heat. And now this whole thing is getting a little funky, so we're going to put it in the Elmarver. Yeah, I think my oversized marble mold is clean enough. Okay, just a lot of manipulations trying to coax this all back into a marble shape. And this stretches the diameter out at the same time. Use some fast rotations to kind of facilitate that. Go into our 2-inch mold here. And that will kind of rough shape the lens. A lot of it at this point, in my process anyway, I get to this point and I've got to get that transition zone to spread out. Yep, pretty cool. It's going to be nice. It's a good day in the torch shop. Okay. First plenty swap. And I don't do any fancy knocking it off with force, I just flame cut it. I don't want a hot marble rolling around on my bench. It happens once in a while, but very much try and avoid that. It's a lot safer to just cut it loose with the flame and pull off a little excess here. Try not to disturb the color too much. Now this side is a little slower moving. In general. Okay, just take some time to get that heat soaked in. So the next step, I can go into the 2-inch mold, kind of level. Leave that tail sticking out. And pull this in. And run this in the larger mold. So every time you introduce it to a graphite mold, it's going to take a lot of heat out of it. So again, we're kind of coming here level, but I'm going to come all the way up and then use a little downward pressure and squeeze these two halves together. Now we're getting there. So I'm kind of hanging this down as the front lens gets a little flattened. It actually looks like the front lens is a little shy. Probably should have left that built up more clear on there, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. That will affect the optics. It may actually look deeper with a smaller lens. Believe it or not. Yeah, a lot of steps here. It doesn't seem like much is happening, but it's slowly pulling together. It's actually always seems like it's taking a frustrating amount of time, and then when I go back and look at the video or scroll through it, I realize this phase is actually not very long. It just feels that way because it's a lot of heat, a lot of rotation. It's kind of intense. So now we're kind of getting it pretty well shaped up. I'm just going to do a bunch of spins and get that backside nice and rounded out. Running nice and smooth in there. just need to zap it with a bit of a flame polish step. Bring it up to a nice heat. And we're going to come out of the flame and just let it settle down on its own. Getting close. Doesn't quite look like center, but we'll pretend it is. So you kind of focus on the new puntee and the line between the color and the clear. Trying to get that to look pretty much on axis. Now, this step, last week I didn't do a good job. I left a little bit of this rod material, puntee material left in here, and it makes a little tiny visible halo when the light hits it just right. So, see if I can make sure I get it all out this time. So the very tip is kind of flattened. I need to kind of pull this vertical and let some of that glass fall out to the end. So then we'll come into our marble mold and we'll go kind of quickly up, sort of quickly, pushing some glass around doing that. Oh, I came up with a little button on the end. It's kind of an indication that there's enough glass there filling out that front face. So next run in the marble mold, come in here on the back side gently, introducing this, and keep rotating one direction until you get it all settled. Then we can come back the other direction, rotate whichever way you want. Okay, so that determines our shape is pretty decent. But in order to smooth everything out, we need to get some pretty good heat going. And watch on the reflection for any little wiggles and wobbles. There's a few. Okay, we're going to need another run through the marble mold, but first we need to let it skin over a little bit. Okay, that's the last run, so I say, in the marble mold. And we'll just do a couple of heats here to polish it up. Looking good. Okay. That should do it. I just need to let this cool down until I can break it loose from the punty. Well, I accomplished the steps that I was hoping to accomplish. You really need to make sure it is solid. You don't want to be trying to break this loose and then getting a dent or scratch. Okay. Jesus, water. All right, come back in the fire for just a moment. Polish up that punty mark. This is another place where all you can really do is look at the reflections. And once the reflections look pretty steady, we call it good. Awesome, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. We got sunshine beaming in. I'm plenty warm now. Managed to pull together an interesting marble with some cool background effects. Good day's work. Morning's work, anyway. It's actually afternoon here. Okay, into the kiln she goes. Awesome sauce. We're all done for today on this marble. Thank you guys so much for participating. Do a like, subscribe, throw down a comment. If you're still here, give a thumbs up. And we wish you all the very best. We wish you and your family the very best. Take care of those around you. And enjoy your life. Have a great day. Check it out. The video right after here is showing off the marble finished. And we'll see you again, another adventure, another day. Take care.